Hey guys, welcome to the Holding Priority podcast. In today's episode, we're going to go over cards we find interesting in Modern Horizons 3.
Modern Horizons 3, big hit this time.
Yeah, I think it's really going to change up the format quite a lot. Not only casual commander, but CEDH.
Well, these cards we have here, these are just our picks that we kind of think are interesting. They may be really big hits as it goes. Um, well, tell us what y'all think too.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to go into a new section of the podcast called the Shuffle Up. All right. So here we would read your comments and talk about anything related to the podcast. We have not had any comments lately. We have a lot of reviews. We have a couple of reviews on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we've seen a lot of people listening on Audible. Thank you so much.
For sure.
And if you're watching the YouTube video, we will have the cards up on the screen that we're talking about. On the podcast, we're definitely going to read them, but if you're somebody that, while we're talking about it, wants to see the card right in front of you, we will have a YouTube video up. And if you could just like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, really do all the things. This is the section of the podcast where you can get involved. We'd read your comments if you have any suggestions for future episodes. Just want to tell us that we're awesome. Just want to tell us that we suck. Either way,
Or answering questions.
or answering questions. Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Anything I'm missing?
No, I think we hit it pretty hard there.
All right. Yeah. Just please leave us reviews. That's how we get pushed to more people. Please leave comments. Same thing. Subscribe. Do all the things. We've seen a lot of people in many countries listening to the podcast. It's so cool. Austria, Russia, Ireland, England, world famous in English speaking podcasts so far.
And if you want to just drop where you're from listening, I also think that's pretty
Oh,
cool personally.
yeah. That would be cool. Cool. All right. Well, that is enough of selling ourselves. So I think we can go ahead and go into the cards.
For sure, let's do it.
Null Elemental Blast. This was one of my picks. They're all in random orders. There's nothing specific. Just as they come up, we're going to talk about them. Null Elemental Blast is a one colorless waste, so you do have to spend the colorless. Instant. Choose one. Counter target multicolored spell. Destroy target multicolored permanent. So the reason that I picked this is, number one, it's colorless. So it can go in literally any deck. And it destroys target multicolored spell, which is almost always going to be a commander. There are some commanders that get around it. Najila, Sisse, Atali. So it's not a
Fix all.
fix all. Even though they have colors in their text, they are monocolored as far as their color their color identity is all colors, but they themselves are a monocolored permanent because you only spend for Najila 2 and a red.
Yeah. I think this is easily put in any deck in the CEDH format right now if you just want that extra removal because there's so many. I mean, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, you know, Soul Ring, all of that stuff could be a sneaky way to throw in a quick counter or whatever.
Yeah, the other thing is if it's not a 4-color deck, for the most part, the lands that you've had to tech in tap for a colorless, and then they also tap for, like with Atalia, red and a green, but you have to take a damage. So even your lands can help you with this while still providing your colors. Like I don't think Blue Farm would really be running this, but also Blue Farm doesn't need to run this because it has blue in it.
Yeah, no. This isn't by any means a get rid of counter spell type of thing. So if
Mm,
you're using like your your force of will or something, this isn't going to be a replacement. This is a good tech for something like I don't know, mono white or
yeah.
anything of that nature. Any mono color really could see it.
Yeah, what I like about it is it gives every color that's not blue the ability to counter any multicolored spell, which we don't really see a lot of spells outside of like Golgari that are multicolored, like Assassin's Trophy, Culling the Weak. Like, there's not a lot of multicolored spells outside of commanders that you actually want to counter. But the cool thing about this too is like, let's say you just didn't leave up a colorless and somebody gets out their commander, you can also just be like, "Ah, I don't have it this time, but when it comes to my turn, I can deal with it because I can destroy it."
Also, if you've ever tapped your Soul Ring or Mana Crypt and you have that one additional floating, this would be a good dump to drop one
Yeah.
person down or one commander or something.
And the thing that I really like about it in CDH is no longer can I just go, okay, I have Rocco. Blue player is tapped out. Let me just try it. Like, now I actually have to go, oh, okay. Null Elemental Blast does exist. Let me look at everybody's board state.
How much mana is up for
Yeah.
sure?
Like, okay, I'm looking at this guy. He hasn't run blue, but he's been really holding on to this colorless land for some reason. Like, it gives a lot more thought, and it's no longer like, for example, I play Rocco, and Rocco is a if I have 7 mana and something else in my hand to kill a 2 toughness creature, I just win out of nowhere. And now it's interesting because not saying that I was just like taking games away with Rocco, but I can now I have to look at the board and go, okay, well, what will eat a Rocco? A force of will, a hard casted mind break trap, and now a null elemental blast I gotta worry about. So
I definitely think it's good tech for all of these, like I said, monocolored decks, or um, if you just really need another counter or destroy in that spot. I could see Najila maybe running it to try to drop a creature so that she can swing.
mhm,
That type of stuff could easily come in.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, also imagine summoning Tivit and then just somebody taps their Soul Ring and half of the mana is kills your Tivit,
uh,
no ETB.
that's rough.
Yeah, I like it. Giving everybody some say about what's happening is very healthy for the format.
For sure. And then if you are using colorless, this gives you an option. It would probably go in most colorless decks, I would assume.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're running colorless, this is an auto include.
And I don't even think it's a rare.
Mm-mm,
So
yeah. A lot of the
it's fire.
cards, yeah, a lot of the cards that we picked are actually uncommon and common, which I think is really cool. You're not gonna, it's not gonna be hard to track this down, but still, you're gonna be able to interact, which I think is really cool.
Mm,
All right, let's go on to the next one. So this is another pick 6 legendary creature, tree folk, 2 colorless and a green. He has a reach. Well, it has reach. I don't think trees have gender. Uh, Whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. What retrace means is you may cast permanent cards from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying their other costs. And it's a 2/4.
is this a green underworld breach?
Yeah, so it's really good. The more I've looked at it, the more it is I think it's similar to Savine's Reclamation
Mm,
that if you have cards in hand, you or like land cards in hand, you have multiple Sabine's Reclamations.
yeah.
It's really good. I think 6 will be a huge change in the format. It's kind of an Underworld Breach. Underworld Breach is better because you just exile 3 cards in your graveyard. This one you have to have
Oh, yeah.
land cards in your hand, which in CDH, every land card that's in your hand is almost always going to be put on the field. You never if you ever keep a hand where you're like, I've got 6 lands and 6, like that's bad. You should you should not keep that. But I do like that whenever it attacks, you mill 3 cards. So it has the possibility of, okay, I have it out. It's a 2/4 reach blocker, which is really good.
Yeah,
And
for
then on
sure.
your next turn, you're just like, I'll attack. Oh, cool. I got a land card. And I milled my brain freeze. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I I think that this would synergize pretty good with that. What is that? Um, Recursion commander.
Oh, Muldrotha, the great type.
Meldrotha.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think this is going to elevate Paco Halden
I see that too.
into a place where Paco Holden was already a CDH deck, which it has trouble closing. We went way into that in the tournament versus CDH, so I'm not going to reiterate it there like here and waste time. But if you guys are interested in CDH decks that are great but just won't ever show up at a tournament in top 16,
Check that one
check
out.
that one out. And comment, like we'll read them.
If you have one that's better, yeah,
Yeah.
let us know.
But I think Paco Halden is going to become. It was right on the verge of showing up at tournaments, but not doing all that great. I think we might see Paco Halden start top 16ing with just this card alone. That's how powerful it is.
I mean, imagine a world where you have countered Athasa's Oracle, and now the next turn, you have this guy that can, or lady that just plops down 6, discards a land, and then recasts.
Yeah. And I just realized I was wrong about Brain Freeze. You may cast permanent cards from your graveyard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's Athasa.
So it's Savines because Savines has to be permanents
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah. So
sure.
you just cast your Thasses again. Just all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, I have 4 cards in my deck. I attack with 6, take out a land, Thassus comes out.
Mm,
Like, I think this will be really great. It also gives a lot of decks intuition lines that normally wouldn't have intuition lines, like Paco Halden, but that's just the one I'm familiar with. I think this will strengthen current decks quite a bit and then also create new decks in the CDH format.
I may be missing a deck here, but I think that giving green the option to also bring back Underworld Breach
Hmm.
for a, for a land may be um, a smidge broke in this.
Yeah. And it does have to be on your turn. So like let's say you intuition with 6 and then you go get I think you'd have to get a land, underworld breach, and
Probably Lion's Eye or something
yeah,
like that.
lion's eye. I was about to say I keep wanting to say well, noxious revival or I was like, well, you just get brain freeze at that point. But yeah, I think it does give a lot more options to intuition players. I mean, also Gruul, you have 6, and then you can get back. Oh, with 6 and Atali, you could get back your cursed mirror too and copy Atali.
This broke.
Yeah. So cursed mirror is basically it's our artifact that comes in as a copy of target creature. Um, so you have in your graveyard, if you have Curse Mirror, 2 colorless red. It's basically an instant or sorcery. It's basically a sorcery in Atali, but it is a permanent, so you get back.
Hmm,
Same with clones. Like, let's say you have 6 out and somebody plays a dockside and they don't close it, just get your clone back.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's good.
Or if Dockside dies, you bring it back too. I think this is going to see a lot of play in Atali's. I
Yeah,
think it's going to come out in there pretty heavy there, and it's just got a lot of good tech.
yeah, cool. Harbing, Harbinger of the Seas, Harbinger of the Seas. I don't know.
Harbinger of the Seas.
Yeah, I keep thinking. Whenever I read it, I think of Silver Surfer for some reason.
Yeah.
Like the Herald. Uh, so Harbinger of the Seas is a 1 colorless blue creature, merfolk wizard. Non-basic lands are islands for, and it's a 2/2. So it's Blood Moon. Like it's Blood Moon. It's Magus of the Moon, but with merfolk, which this is insane. Like, not to talk about other formats, but like giving merfolk island walk is a very common thing. And now we're going to have everything being an island. So like they're just going to that's going to be crazy.
I mean, even if you don't use it for the island walk, disrupting lands is always
Yeah.
a nuisance.
Yeah. I don't think it's as good as Blood Moon, just because, like, at least with Blood Moon, you're shutting off people's ability to counter you. So, like, whenever I play Blood Moon, it's either I'm going to win on next turn and I just need that turn and this is all I can do. Or I put it down and I'm like, I'm going to put this down. I'm kind of creating a situation where somebody needs to counter Blood Moon or counter, like, or just be cool not being able to counter my stuff. Harbinger of the Seas just turns everything into counter counter mana. So
Yeah, you don't necessarily take away from the blue player, but there is, I mean, disrupting lands again.
yeah,
I think that's where it's at.
yeah,
I do think that it has more of a Magus of the Moon feel because it can be killed,
yeah.
but um,
I, th-
it's
th-
crazy.
yeah. I don't think that, like, I wouldn't say Blue Farm's gonna run this because they don't run Blood Moon, but there's a lot of decks that will be able to tech this in. And there's also there's a merfolk that has Island Walk that's a commander. It's a mono blue commander. I think whenever she hits, uh she gets to just go fish any artifact out of your deck.
Mm.
I forget her name. She's one of the monocolored blue commanders that I've been somewhat interested in. I think this is just, we're gonna see her a little bit more often. So we're gonna see a kind of a rogue deck be able to compete, and it's already a deck that certain pilots can compete very well with.
I mean, it's also blue.
Yeah,
Like the the crazy part about this is if you were to summon it and you're a multicolored deck and you just need to kind of lock it down for a turn,
yeah,
you could easily play something like a dress down and get
yeah.
around it on your turn. I,
I mean, I see it going in Tibet. I see it going very well into Kennen.
yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah, like Kennen already has the ability to run Trinisphere, and
Ye-
if you then turn everything into islands that are non-basic, like, because Kennen runs a lot of basics.
I mean, I wouldn't mind flipping into that if I needed it.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
yeah, and then the other thing with Tivit is whenever Tivit hits, you don't really care too much about your colors at
Now
that
you can
point.
color fix with just your treasures
Yeah,
for sure.
so I think decks that we've already seen put a little bit of stacks in that are blue. I mean, this is going to be stacks winner, honestly, in my mind.
I mean, a deck like Urza
Oh yeah, yeah,
would also more than likely. I mean, it
yeah,
just all around messing with lands is pretty solid.
yeah. I think that this is going to catapult some of the decks that we don't really see a lot of play into seeing a lot more play, which I'm all for. Like the fact that this set is going, oh yeah, this person ran this deck in a tournament. That's a cool deck. Let's make a card for it. Like,
Yeah,
I think is great.
yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. Speaking of stacks, Winter Moon. It's a artifact, two colorless. Players can't untap more than one non-basic land during their untap steps. Ugh.
Yep. They have mini cards like this now.
Yeah. I mean, Winter Moon being two, stacks that are in the two cost form, like the problem that I always had with stacks, I had a Timna Kodama deck that I had a lot of trouble setting up stacks turn one because all of the good stacks were three. Um, and Winter Moon is two, which is fantastic. Like, I really like that it's not go for broke with stacks. Like, yeah, you have Deafening Silence at one. I guess Root Maze, but Root Maze kind of hurts you too. But
I
now,
hate. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's
I hate to bring up Kennen again, but I could see Kennen running this as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Um, it's a 2 drop. You mess up everybody that's in those more capable colors, I
yeah.
guess, and you don't really. It doesn't really affect you too much because you're going to run most commons.
God, I didn't think about that. Stacks Cannon sounds miserable
Yeah,
because
it
we
does.
have all of those. because there's a lot of in my mind, there's a lot of pressure on getting green better in CEDH, and I think Modern Horizons is trying to address that. So they've made a lot of good green cards, and then they made a lot of good stacks cards, and then we have Flood Moon. Ugh,
Yeah, they have a lot
ugh.
of good blue cards too. Yeah.
I don't like that. Like,
I
I'm
mean,
a little
imagine a world
afraid.
where a Trinisphere and that's on the field. Like, what do you do?
Concede.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, go ahead and flip. Nobody can do anything.
Yeah. That. The thing I've always thought about Kinnan is I do really like Kinnan, but outside of some key combos that are really easily telescoped, Kinnan has a hard time closing. It's pretty much always going to be Basalt, and then either Thrasios or the Pinger guy. I always forget his name.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of Kinnan players were using Trinisphere to kind of count mana,
Yeah,
and now this also
yeah,
will stop it. And if they're together, even worse.
yeah. And I was about to say like maybe we see this in Tivit. I think Tivit would hurt itself too much with this.
I do too. He's just a little bit. He has one too many colors, in my
Yeah.
opinion, for this.
Like your treasures can color fix, but if you're non-basic lands don't untap, then you severely limit yourself on your colorless mana. So yeah, I think very specific decks will need to run this, but like I wouldn't run it in a Tali. I see the just what stands out in my mind is Kinnan. If we're missing anything, like please, I would love to see you guys' takes on these in the comments.
I think Kinnan for sure will. This could be a good tech for Kinnan.
Yeah, cool.
But
Vexing Bobble. Vexing Bobble. Reason I included it. Number one, it's an uncommon. That's great. And it's a one cost. So it's a one cost artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. One, one colorless tap. Sacrifice Vexing Bobble. Draw a card.
do do I have to say that Kinnan looks like it's gotten a lot of stuff here?
Yeah.
Just personally. Um,
Wait, you can't run this and Trinisphere on the field at the same time.
yeah, but I mean, having an option here,
Yeah.
because you can also pay one and sack this.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about it is it's a stacks that locks down the table, but let's say you put it up and then somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to go for it." And the table's just like, I could stop this guy, but you're literally stopping me." As long as you left a colorless up, you can be like, "Cool. My bad. I'll draw a card. You use your."
Yeah, do what you got to do,
Yeah.
or just buy time.
Yeah.
That's where it's at, really. Or since it's so low to the ground, you could play it first, kind of like a pseudo silence. You know what I mean? And then go ahead and try to do your combo. And
Mhm.
then if they don't have the mana to outright cast it, too bad.
Yeah. The thing I like about Vexing Bobble, like let's say you're an Azorius deck that you really care about people not putting their mana rocks out. You now have Vexing Bobble, you have Lavinia, and then you have Boromir. So you have a 1, 2, and 3 cost that does fairly similar things. Also, if you're first and you play Vexing Bobble and drop your mana, well, no, drop your mana crypt, drop all of your 0 rocks,
And then do it.
and then play Vexing Bobble, you're way ahead. Like,
Yeah, you're way ahead and holding the table somewhat hostage. Again, I could see it, Kenna.
yeah, I played Chalice of the Void for a while, and I kind of stopped playing it just because I realized that if I'm in red, I probably should not play it because I genuinely want those artifacts to come out so that I can dockside.
Yeah.
But Vexing Bobble would be a second option to where it's like, okay, I have Chalice of the Void. I could drop that on turn 1 for 0 and mess up everybody's mana rocks. Or I could play Vexing Bobble, stop everybody's mana rocks, and then whenever I need people to start countering stuff, I can sack it and just get the card value back. Like it's good.
You know what I didn't think about with this card?
What?
Urza Saga.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
You
can
could you
fetch
could
it.
fetch it for Urzus.
Yeah,
So good options,
yeah.
honestly.
I think we're gonna see stacks winner. I think a lot of people. I've run stacks in tournaments purely because there's so many decks that if they're unstopped, it just goes crazy. Like
Unchecked for
yeah,
sure.
like Roxai. There's decks that can easily, not easily, but they can push a win on turn 1 or 2. And if you put up a deafening silence, they're done for the entire game. Um, I still don't think that I think Stacks has a better place in CDH, and a lot of people just don't run it because, like, yeah, there are times where like you set up a Stacks and then somebody just happens to have a deck that plays around it, and then everybody at the table is like, "Why'd you let this person win?" But I mean, that's going to happen. Yeah. But if everybody has options to run Vexing Bobble and other stuff, I think it's just healthy for the game because the games will go longer. Unfortunately, that'll mean more ties, but we're already in a 19% tie meta anyway. So
It's we're getting there anyway.
yeah, I mean, really, the answer right now is go so fast people can't stop you. But with these cheap stacks pieces, any disruption is really good.
I would also argue that even if you draw it and it's not the best card at that moment, a Soul Ring ends up being draw one card. So
Mhm.
you tap Soul Ring, play it, put the one in, sacrifice it, draw a card.
Yeah.
So is it the best at that? No, but it's an option that you can kind of get rid of the card. Maybe you put it in for um, fodder for your graveyard.
Hmm.
Maybe you just need that extra card. But I definitely see it as being way stronger than an uncommon.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pseudo defense grid that you don't set everybody up. The thing I don't like, and a lot of people don't like about defense grid, is sometimes it's your only option, but then you put it down, and if somebody stops your win, you're just like, well, sorry, I handed somebody else a win. Pass. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
At least with Vexing Bobble, you can do it, and then if you get stopped, you're like, okay, I have a colorless. I'll just draw a card.
What what if the only interaction is free spells? Because that
Yeah.
can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you blow a force of will on a vexing bobble, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, you would have to. Like,
Yeah.
if that comes down for one mana, and you have no other counters, you either let it go and just pray, or
Yeah.
you go ahead and try to counter it.
You let it go and then keep 5 mana up on the next turn.
But
Force the
yeah,
will. Yeah.
silly.
Yeah, I like it.
I think you'll see it.
Birthing Ritual. It's a one colorless green, so it's Sylvan Library enchantment. Um, at the beginning of your end step, so you can play this and get immediate value.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you put a creature card with mana value X or less from among those cards onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order.
So you don't even lose them; they just go back to the library.
So, I mean, another Kennan card.
It's solid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good at delving. I mean, it's not as good as a Kennen flip because like you do have to have a creature that's similar mana value out. But I mean, with Kennen, you're putting a lot of good stuff out that's high value. It's just also good for green creature matters decks like Rocco, any stacks deck. The thing that I like about it is it's two. It has immediate value because, well, not immediate, but same turn value because you do get the trigger at the end step. So it's not like Sylvan where you pay and then you pass and you get no value for it that turn. This you pay, you pass. You get to look at the top 7 cards of your library too. So like you literally get to go like, okay, is there anything in this top 7 I would rather have? Yes. All right, I will sacrifice this creature. It's you're not locked in by any means, which is really good.
Yeah, you can do it all before and decide if you want to sack that creature.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah, and also like you could have a mana dork on the field and then tap it for birthing ritual and then activate Birthing Ritual, and then see a creature that costs 2 that you're just like, "Oh, okay, I would rather turn this tapped mana dork into a Dothy Voidwalker. I would rather turn this tapped mana dork into Thassa's Oracle. Oh, now I have combo because I can cast my Taint Pact or Demont Consultation at instant speed."
And
Like,
you don't cast them either, huh?
yeah, if you do, you may put creature. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's your. I mean, you could also see some shenanigans with that, and maybe a Born Upon a Wind too.
Hmm.
Because, like, why not? If you throw that out there, and in the top 7 you have a Dockside, and then Born, that'd be crazy.
What's the blue, black, green color combo called? I always forget.
I'm not sure
Yeah, but I mean,
off top.
yeah, that color combo. This is really good because you could literally fish your Thassa's out, put it not counterable, and then you follow up with
With the yeah,
yeah,
you went on your end step. That's
yeah,
crazy.
and like you turn a step that you were just going to pass into, oh, all of a sudden I have Thassa's now, and it's 7 cards, which like if you're running, usually you're gonna have partners. That's 98, and then you draw 7, so you're at, well, you draw 8, so you're at 90 cards. So this delves greater than 13% of your deck
I mean,
turn 1.
it's sneaky,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
I mean, think about like trying to play a win con or play a pretty big stacks piece and having people, try to counter you to stop you. And then at the very end, you turn your mana dork into a Thassa and win.
yeah,
Like that's crazy. I didn't even think about it utilized that way, but that's
yeah.
that's solid.
I mean, even Timna Kodama, like I could literally just be like,
Oh, would that trigger twice too?
um,
Like if
yeah,
with Kodama?
because a permanent would enter, and then I could drop something from my hand. Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, I could drop a land from my hand
For sure.
at the very least if I had it. But also like, oh, okay, I sacrificed
Oh,
this.
spicy.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's not saying Timna Kodama is a great deck by any means. Like it has its problems, but I mean this is really fun. I don't know if it's great outside of very specific circumstances, but I'm all for fun cards. Like,
I mean, look at a world where you don't have any mana up,
hmm,
right? And you cheat out Thassa's. On the ETB, you go ahead and drop your land for Kodama, which
yeah,
could be a swamp,
yeah,
and then consultation out
yeah,
that way. That's great. I like
yeah.
it. I like those crazy wins.
Yeah, no, like this is, I like things that are like, let's just see what happens. And
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Win on your end step. That's
yeah,
crazy.
cool. Chthonian Nightmare. One colorless black enchantment. When Chthonian Nightmare enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. Pay X energy counters, sacrifice a creature, return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand. Return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. The thing about this that is crazy is you pay X, you sacrifice the creature, and then you return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand, colon. So you sacrifice it, it enables itself. So you have Dockside. You play Chthonian Nightmare with your Dockside treasures. You pay 2 energy, sacrifice Dockside, and return Chthonian Nightmare to your hand. You then return the Dockside you just sacrificed
To the field.
to the field, paying 2 energy, so you net an energy every time.
Oh wow.
And you get Dockside back, activated only as a sorcery.
That's what we needed. Another infinite dock
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, so we're giving, which I will say that Rakdos did kind of need some help, but now Rakdos has a Dockside loop. And now oh, I forgot what the dragon's name. Corvold. Corvold has 2 different ways to Dockside loop. Sisay has another way to Dockside loop. It's not a legendary enchantment, luckily, but like what are we doing? Like why? Like,
I like it. I like that it goes so in general, you would just need 2 mana after Dockside hits? Is that what I'm kinda
Yeah,
guessing
because
here?
you it's not return target creature to your hand, it's
No,
to the
it's
battlefield. Yeah,
and you
so
could
it's
sack it with it?
yeah. So
That's awesome.
you potentially, if you have 3 mana, if you get 3 treasures with Dockside, you can go infinite with Chthonian Nightmare as long as you were able to cast Dockside. So, like, you could play Dockside for 2, get 3 treasures, play Chthonian Nightmare. So turn 2, you could, with this and Dockside in hand, you
Go
could go
infinite.
infinite treasures. It is an enchantment, so I mean it is easy to counter. Everything hits enchantments. That, like, it's not creatures, so it is like. But that, I mean, if you, I hate this, like,
I mean, could it be a Blue Farm staple? Maybe. I mean, it's a loop.
yeah,
I mean, and it's a infinite mana loop, which is good.
yeah. I mean, and it can get Delaney back. It can get Bowmasters back.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I hate it. Like,
Yeah, nah, that's crazy town.
no, I think we're gonna see this card in a
I
lot of things.
it's gonna hit meta.
Yeah,
I see that for
yeah.
sure.
It's Corvold's gonna run it. Obnix is gonna run it. There are certain decks that do need the power. I agree, but also this is a world where there are 5 color commanders and Blue
They could
Farm,
use it, yeah.
and they can use it too. And it's just like, yeah, we really didn't need to give Dockside and Blue Farm another enchantment that's good. You know, like this is Black Underworld Breach, kind of.
Well, more graveyard. I mean,
Yeah,
you may see people start using, exile like, exile graveyard cards or move a card to top deck, like Noxious Revival and stuff.
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean, you're
Crick
gonna
will
need
love
it.
this. Like,
Oh, cra yeah, for
yeah.
sure, for sure.
I mean, loop your Gary for a colorless and 2 life. Just blah, 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 blah. Oh, and
Mhm,
Gary gives you the life back. So yeah, just
mhm. Yeah, you're good.
yeah. Oh wait, no, Gary's 5 though. I think.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to just keep dropping them.
yeah. But I mean, still, if you find a creature that you can net off of and you're cool with it, you can net and then get the 5, do it. So it'd be a little bit more involved than just poop 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 poop. But I mean, yeah, it's really good. Go. Flare of Fortitude. It is an instant card. 2 colorless, white white. You may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Until end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. The reason that I included this is it is exactly what Rocco needs. Rocco is not really, a insane deck in the format. It gets wins sometimes, but for free, I can do Rocco for 7, bring out my Academy Rector for free, sacrifice my Academy Rector, and then everything that I can troll as far as my combo gains hexproof and indestructible. So no longer can you swords my Feltalar Guardian in my combo. Like it's a, oh, okay. I am going to cast Flare Fortitude. I'm going to sacrifice my Academy Rector. You have no response that you can do because my Academy Rector's gone. I guess you could Swords Rocco and then make it a little bit harder for me to do the combo because I don't have a 3 cost creature anymore. But still, like it gives Rocco combo a lot of resilience, and also it's kind of Angel's Grace minus the your opponents can't win.
So I'm gonna ask a question here. Could this be used in something like a Necropotence? Because your life total
Oh
can't
yeah, yeah,
change.
yeah.
And Necropotence triggers So like I'm gonna pay 40 life into it, draw, or put it out, and then I'm gonna pay another 40
Mm-hmm.
and do it. Because as long as you're
Yeah.
not paying over what you have,
Yeah.
you should be able to do it that way, right? Or am I reading that?
I mean, I don't really think it matters because you could just literally go, I'm a necropotence for one. I'm a necropotence for
That's what
one.
I'm
Yeah,
saying.
because your life total can't change. So you can flare. I mean, Blue Farm could flare Fortitude and
Add
then
nos.
add Nas and draw their entire deck. Yeah, like
Interesting.
yeah. I hate this.
I hate to give you a blue farm perspective, Aaron,
Yeah.
but
Well, I like it for Rocco. I'm sad now. I thought I got a Rocco card.
you did. You did. It would be solid in Rocco. However, um, if I can pay life without my life changing,
Yeah. Mm, yeah.
well, um, so I think this card is great because you can pay life without losing life. And then if something like your Adnaz wants to go off and you just have to sacrifice your what is the you could sacrifice Delaney. You could sacrifice
Esper Sentinel.
Asper Sentinel, which is worthless after the first draw that turn.
Yeah, let's just go to the next
I'm
one. No, I think it's good. I think the flares are all pretty good, but I felt like this one was one of the better ones.
it's definitely gonna be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Like I do not look forward to a world where Adnaz and an Esper Sentinel is and this card is all people need to just go
Well,
off and draw their entire deck. But
well, it's yeah, it's honestly for that instance, it's better than Angel's Grace because
yeah,
Angel's Grace doesn't your life total can still move.
yeah. Because if you loss of life,
Yeah,
yeah,
but this says you just can't.
yeah,
I
but
love it.
yeah. Okay, well, we'll go to the next one. Like, I mean, 10 out of 10 card, unfortunately.
Power
Uh,
balance.
yeah, this one I'm looking forward to. I don't think so. Counterbalance. This is the other side of the mirror to counterbalance. Counterbalance doesn't see a lot of play, so I think this is a really cool card that people will pet card into things, but let's just get into what the card does. So power balance, red and a red. Enchantment. When an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the two spells have the same mana value. So you may cast it right then for free on top of their spell, and it ignores timing restrictions. So imagine a world where you have a Tali. You put out power balance. You cast molten duplication for 2. Somebody force negations it. You flip and your top card is heat shimmer. So
Oh,
you're like, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like,
yeah,
or your top card is blood moon and you're like, fair enough, free blood moon.
that's cool.
Like free instant speed blood moon. Like
I was honestly, when I was reading this card, thinking about having them both out. I don't know if
mhm.
that would, just because they both look similar, but um,
Yeah, I think I think there are decks that will run both. Like I think Elsha of the Infinite maybe because there's a lot of top deck manipulation in there. I think that power balance is better because instead of you let them play their game, but also like you get to play your game quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah. I probably will try it out, Natali. It's a whiff on an Natali trigger is the only kind of uncool thing, but I think it gives those decks that just need a little bit of a push, like power balance. I can see it going in Winota because it's like, okay, you cast your one spell a turn. Let me flip power balance. Oh, it's a creature that will be a Winota trigger. Cool. I'll cast my one spell for turn two.
That's
Like,
cool.
yeah, because you cast it, so it can't be like a land or anything. But you would instant speed get creatures in Winota.
Yeah, on would it be on other people's turns too?
Hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, because so permission overrides restriction.
Yeah,
So if it says you may cast that card, you have permission to cast that card right then.
yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna be solid, and with only a 2 mana um, sink,
Hmm.
I don't think it's gonna be a big problem to run it in a few decks for
Yeah.
sure. There's a
Now,
lot of Atali stuff that you're kind of building, and if
yeah.
it's in your hand, why not just drop it?
Yeah, I mean, like power balance. I don't really have a way to manipulate my top. So if it's land, then I did a setup turn, and then I'm like, oh, cool. Well, it's land. Yeah,
You also know if you're would that be the turn to ideally drop Atali? Maybe that won't make a difference for you because you're also hitting 3 other decks.
yeah. I mean,
But
really, with Atali, my I don't. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna cast Atali because what's on the top of my deck is not good.
yeah,
Like it. What's on the top of my deck doesn't really matter. But like it would be cool to power balance and then somebody plays like Soul Ring and then you reveal a mana dork and you're like, cool, I have an extra mana dork.
yeah,
I have a Soul Ring. I have, it's there's worlds where it's good, but if you play power balance and then you pass and then you reveal land on top and then you're just like, okay, well I paid two and I didn't build it all. Like I
mm,
would say the surveil lands will probably help a lot with this.
I can see that.
And then also like if you have a sack land, you at least have two rolls with it where you can be like, I don't like that. I'm gonna go ahead and sack my land. And then if you sack your land and then you surveil, you get the surveil land on somebody else's turn. Potentially you can go 3 cards deep, but yeah, it's a high risk, high reward card. But once you hit a land, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's decent.
Mhm. There are green cards that let you play lands from the top of your library, but you play them, so you can do it on other people's turns. So
Yeah,
I think Elsha of the Infinite, like things that already do some type of top deck manipulation, will like this a lot. I think this will be kind of the card that everybody's like, "Oh, this is cool," and then in action, it's only okay. But I mean, I would run it in Minota. I'd probably try it out in Natali. I'm sure there's other decks, and I mean, by all means, if you see this card and you're like, "No, this is broken in this deck," like, I like this card, I want to run it, so please tell me. Like,
yeah. I think Winoto hit this card quite a bit. I think
yeah,
she'll like it.
yeah, like building your army on other people's turns for free is really good. Like,
S- Strix
Serenade,
Serenade?
yeah,
Counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 bird creature token with flying.
yeah. So it's a one blue instant spell. It's a counter clearly, but one blue instant and then does that.
Yeah, I think that this could stop Dockside, could stop a lot of those pesky creatures that drop out right now in the format that people really can't. They're not as easily countered.
Yeah, and by pesky creature you mean every single commander in existence.
Yeah, just everyone.
Yeah, one blue for me to be like, yeah, you don't get your commander, and it
Yeah.
costs two more now.
No Crom for you. Have a 2/2
Yeah.
bird.
No Tali for you. Thanks for investing the 7 mana. It'll cost 9 next turn. Like,
It's crazy.
yeah, I like personally just flavor wise. That's the exact opposite of Swan Song. And I like that Swan Song. The bird is flying up, and then Strix Serenade the it's flying down. Like,
Yeah, because it's about to enter. That's
yeah,
fun.
there's a lot of cards like power balance and the last one that we talked about. I already forgot the name. Counterbalance and power balance are flipped mirror world versions, and then this is the same thing, same color, but does exactly the half that Swan Song doesn't.
It's also like dusk instead of daytime. That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
cool. I I think that it's gonna see some play. Um, this is 1 mana to stop a dockside, 1 mana to stop Atali.
1 mana to stop a Sisay. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like worth it.
yeah. I really like that commanders are not going to be as just, oh, I have 3 mana, I'm going to cast my commander. Like, you will have to start putting some thought into it. For example, like Atali, I have a lot of things that if I have 7 mana, I might not just jam Atali. Like, if I don't have a Veil of Summer in hand, if I don't have some type of protection for Atali, it's probably not a good idea for me to drop Atali. And I think everybody should have that healthy fear somewhat. Like, you should not just look at the table and go, okay, well, I'm going to cast my commander. And if you got to force the will, great. If you don't, it's happening. Like,
I think that this may take the spot of stern scolding too in a lot of
oh, yeah.
decks,
If you,
just because.
yeah, if you run Stern Scolding, you just take that out of that card, put Strict Serenade back in. Like, there's no question about that at all.
Or
Like,
possibly run both.
yeah.
But I see this being a thing
I mean,
for
I,
sure.
I see Blue Farm taking out one of the red elemental blast effects and just going, all right, Pyroblast out, Strict Serenade in. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I can see that too. Because you could also hit the artifacts as well.
mhm.
Um,
I mean, also Sisay planeswalkers, like planeswalk hitting a planeswalker is very valid in Sisay. A lot of Sisay is she's not going to cast him; she's going to bring him to field. But if Sisay never hits field, then you never have to worry about
or
Sisay bringing him to field.
or that pesky Teferi that's trying to silence.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, for one, you give him a 2/2 or her a 2/2, but I don't know. I see it being solid in a lot of different scenarios. I think this is going to be a meta card.
yeah.
I don't I don't know how available it'll be in packs, but this will be a salt card.
Yeah. So just complete side conversation. I was really surprised to see that a lot of the blue farm decks that topped were running Teferi, but not Displacer Kitten. So Teferi is good enough that they were like 3 mana counter. That's hard to counter. Yeah, yeah, I'll run this. Like, like can't
Yeah,
Flusterstorm it. Can't. Yeah, I mean that card's good if you're just like, yeah, it's a 3 mana silence. Like, I'm gonna run it.
yeah, and with this, it gives you an extra option
Yeah,
to pop it, which is solid.
yeah. I mean, it's gonna be good. A lot of decks that don't ever, like, for example, we have a friend that plays Blue Farm that for the most part he's just like, this is the deck I like, this is the deck I'm gonna run forever. I've been running it for 2 years. I don't really care about when sets come out because I don't really get new stuff. He saw this and immediately was just like, my god, I'm gonna buy it as a single. I'm gonna get the full art. It has full art. I can bling it out. Like, yeah,
Is it full art? Does it have
yeah, yeah.
texture? Yeah,
Like,
he was all over this
yeah, it's one of the few cards that have come out that he's just like, "Oh, I'm actually excited for a new set because I get to change my deck." Like, yeah,
Yeah. Charitable levy?
yeah,
Non creatures cost one. Yeah. Non creatures cost one more to cast. This is a one colorless, one white enchantment. Whenever a player casts a non creature spell, put a collection counter on Charitable Levy. When there are three or more collection counters on it, sacrifice it. If you do, draw a card, then you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle.
hmm,
So I think this card is decent as far as being a stacks piece, and then after a while, you can just sack it.
yeah. And it's very strange that you have three opponents in Commander and it needs three counters. So, like,
Yeah,
yeah, like you give your opponents basically it's a 2 mana stacks piece, which is great. Like, there needs to be 2 mana stacks pieces to kind of fill out stacks. Which we said previously, but I like that it's non-creature spells cost one more to cast, and if you just go, I don't care, I'm going to pay it. If every opponent does that, then I get a plains card, so you can go get your dual
scrubs or
land, yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
and put to the battlefield tap, and you draw a card, so it replaces itself. your opponents had to pay 3, and you just ramped yourself a mana in white. You know, like,
It's a good turn 1,
yeah.
turn 2, stop the table for a turn.
And let's say like one of your opponents is like, I can get around it. I'm not going to. If on your turn you're like, okay, I'll pay 1 more to cast this, and then that mana I will get for the rest of the game because now I'm sacrificing it, drawing it, and I get a free plains card onto the battlefield tapped. Like, you can just go, well, I'm going to pay 1 more because you didn't, and then you get all of the effects on your turn, which I think it's really good, and and an uncommon too. I really like that a lot of the uncommons and commons were very playable this set.
Uncommon, the tapped, I wouldn't even be worried about because more than likely, I feel like this is going to be sacked on an opponent's turn,
Mhm.
and for your turn, you go ahead and drop another land.
Yeah, or let's say you play it and you cast a creature, and somebody counters that creature. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna put a counter on this, and now I get a land out of it. So you had to burn a counter. You had to pay 1 more to cast it. Yeah, it's kind of lame that my creature got countered, but now I have a extra land and I drew a card.
I think that uncommons really took the cake for this set. Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot.
yeah,
Like, who would have thought 2 mana, non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast? That's what Thalia ability almost
yeah. Thalia ability.
for
Not
3 spells.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's also. I'm not gonna say it's one sided because yeah, you do have to pay into it, but it's one sided if your opponents burn through it. Yeah,
Well, it should be one-sided for you that turn.
yeah, yeah,
So if you're gonna drop 6 artifacts, this would be your last
yeah,
spell.
yeah, yeah. Sequencing matters in Commander.
But for the next 2 turns, or next turn or so, um, pay 1. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, go ahead.
I mean, I also just really like that it's a plains card. So, like, even if you're not running basics, it's good. Like, I'm not going to say that this will be running Blue Farm because Blue Farm is so non creature spells heavy, but like, I would probably run it in Rocco. I'd figure out something to take out. Any deck that runs High Noon will probably run Charitable Levy beside it. It's just good. Like, I like it.
It's a ramp, a stop,
Yeah.
all for 2 mana. Like,
And
solid.
replaces itself at
Yeah.
some point.
Get a draw. I like it. Oh man, if I butcher these, ooh,
Arabian Charm.
Thrabian Charm. Choose one. Oh, so Thrabian Charm is 1 colorless, 1 white, instant. Choose one. Thrabian Charm deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature. Or destroy target enchantment, or exile any number of target players' graveyards.
Yeah.
So hear me out. A few sets back, we had something in black called Shieldred's Edict.
Hmm.
I think this is for what? Like 3 different things for 2 on a common.
Yeah. I was about to say, like, for our podcast listeners, every think about everything that this does. What would you expect it to be at instant speed? No, it's a common.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a common.
yeah.
You might get you might open 4 packs and get one in each pack.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
We've always known that instant speed makes a card extremely attractive. Choose one makes cards extremely attractive, and having very relevant choose ones on 3 being charm. Like, let's say somebody goes for Underworld Breach combo. I actually have to make a decision. I have to decide if I want to destroy Underworld Breach or if I just want to nuke their graveyards. You know, like,
I'm not really sure on this interaction, but if somebody tried to Memnonic, would you still be able to cast those spells, or would they
yeah.
not be able to? Because it says exile.
So if So I believe mnemonic betrayal, you may cast everyone's they exile, you may cast them from exile and then they fall back. So it wouldn't
It
stop
wouldn't.
that.
Okay.
But if somebody played mnemonic and then you followed up with Thraben Charm on top of the mnemonic,
That's all I was
you
saying.
would exile everything and then there'd be no cards in graveyards, so they would just whiff.
So it would work to counter, or not really counter a
Yeah.
memnonic, but stop a memnonic.
Yeah. On stack in response it will, but if they mnemonic betrayal, you can't after it resolves go, oh, I have a Thraben Charm actually. Like
No, on cast you
yeah,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
it. But I mean, also stopping breach.
Yeah.
Also, if if somebody is gonna recur, I mean, we have six now, and it's gonna be printed with this too.
Yeah.
You just exile that person's, and it's not everybody, so I can keep mine.
Yeah. And then also too, like it has a red effect. So deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature. Like if you have one creature it does 2 damage, that's relevant. Like,
Yeah,
ideally you're not using it for that first one, but giving white that effect is pretty interesting. And destroy target enchantment, I that's very specific. I mean if I had everything I wanted, it would be exile target enchantment or artifact, just
yeah.
so that I could hit ring. But I mean destroy target artifact is very relevant in CDH. It pops Ristic Studies, it pops Underworld Breach. I mean, if somebody played that Chthonian Nightmare and then no, because then they could just pop it back. So I think Chthonian Nightmare. No, you activate it as a sorcery. So if it resolves,
You could do it on somebody else's turn,
mm,
and if they go to try to do it, this is an all-in-one. So if they go to try to use it, you could just exile their graveyard.
yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So I mean, the options for this
Yeah,
are crazy for two.
yeah. It's an inset answer to Chthonian Nightmare at common.
Would it take other spots in decks? I'm not exactly sure which one, but I do think that this is a good option for a lot of um, white that may not have certain um, answers.
Yeah, I believe there was a white card that people were running, and the first effect just wasn't relevant. It was exile everybody's graveyards. So I think this will take the place of it. I think Winota was running it, but I mean this is an all around, like if it's in your hand, you can stop quite a lot of stuff. Like
It gives you all different kinds of options.
yeah,
Um, again, I wasn't even trying to pick a common. It was just something that I looked at and was like, this is silly.
yeah. All right. Layer of Denial. One colorless, blue blue, instant. You may sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than pay its spell's mana cost. Counter target spell. Target spell. So it the thing that immediately that I saw whenever I saw this, it was okay, free Thassa counter, because Thassa, once the trigger is on the stack, you just go, I don't really need Thassa anymore. I'll just go down to 0 if I don't have any blue on the field. So you could play Thassa, trigger on the stack, cast your Tainted Pact, and someone goes, I'm actually going to counter your Tainted Pact. You just be like, okay, well, I'll sack Thassa, Flare of Denial. And they're like, well, I'm going to counter that Flare of Denial. Cool. I have multiple other free counters at my disposal.
Yeah, it's like here goes force.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in blue, so force can use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a game changer on a lot of fronts, or not only Thassa's line, but for sure Thassa's line. Um,
Yeah. I mean, too, like, let's just talk about Bloom Farm for a second. Like, you have the option of going,
Sacrom, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna you're about to win. I'm tapped out. I'm just gonna sack Crom and Flare Denial. Like, I don't want to be the one to answer this, but if I'm not gonna get another turn, I would rather have every creature and permanent on board but Crom rather than shuffle up. You know, like,
Yeah, for sure. I think that this will be used in most blue decks going forward. I think that you'll see it quite a bit at at a casual level on up to, tournament play.
I see a lot of complaining if this was played in a casual deck.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I do feel like it's a lot fairer than just exile a card from your hand. But I mean, I think even counterspell gets complaints in casual because you're not letting people play their game. The other thing that just counter target spells, so it's another creature. There were a lot of decks that were like the counters that people run don't really hit creatures, so creature combos are harder and they're more involved, but they're a little bit slipperier. So I'll run that. And now there's all of these things that are printed that's just like, okay, well, these creature counters that are slow that weren't really slipping through CEDH, we're gonna also stop them with give people more options. Like the fact that you could just flare of denial and be like, I got my Crom. I got a couple draws off of them. I just really don't want you to have your commander. You just summoned a, you know, 13 cost Eldrazi, like
no, thank
player
you.
of denial. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an option to use on anything if you have a blue creature. Like
Yeah.
and a lot of times, once your creature ETBs, who cares what it does afterwards? I
Yeah.
mean, there's value on the board, but like you said, I would give my Crom to have another turn.
hmm I cannot wait until somebody sacrifices a clone off Flare of Denial and there's a judge call on it because they're like, actually, that's a blue creature on the mat, but it transformed into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I'm like the thing that keeps springing in my mind here is now whenever I cast, let's say like I'm just going to use Atali as an example because that's what I've been playing. Now whenever I cast Atali, I need to go. Does anybody have two blue up? Okay. Do I think there's a force of will? Okay. Have I cast more than two spells? Will Atali be my third? And now I have to go. Does anybody have a blue creature? Does anybody have a single blue
A
up?
single blue mana.
Does anybody have an untapped Soul Ring or Mana Crypt? Like,
Yeah, that's true. It's gonna be a counter heavy set for sure, I think.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I mean, it. The decks that I run, I like to do a lot of creature combos, so I'm a little salty on it, but I understand the need. Like,
I mean, they were almost untouchable. Like if you seen somebody play a force of will, there's like a
yeah,
70% chance or
yeah.
so, and just to gun it.
There was a lot of times that I would just be like, I have a dock side. I hope it eats a counter. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because if it eats a counter, I'm just gonna pass and win on my next turn. Now it's like, okay, like I'm not eating through, you know, a couple. I have like six that I need to eat through now. Like,
I like it.
yeah. Volatile Storm Drake. One colorless blue creature Drake. Flying, hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. When Volatile Storm Drake enters the battlefield, exchange control of Volatile Storm Drake and target creature an opponent controls. If you do, you get 4 energy counters. Then sacrifice that creature unless you pay an amount of energy counters equal to its mana value. It's a 3/2. So in modern, I understand why it's hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. On the stack, it's not, but you don't want to give somebody Volatile Storm Drake, give them a 3/2 flyer, and not let them be able to smack you in the face next turn.
Yeah.
Completely irrelevant in CDH for the most part. Like, I don't really care if you get a 3/2 if I take your Sisei, if I take your Najila. Also, let's say that there's a Crom out. I really don't care if I take your Crom and then sack it.
Yeah, just
Like,
drop it
yeah.
down.
Like, regardless, I get your creature. The only downside is I have to sack it. So for one and a blue, if there was a spell that was one and a blue, can only be countered by creature counters, take somebody's commander, if it's over 4 mana, sack it. Everyone would be like, "This is crazy," and that's what this is.
Yeah. I see people probably running gilded and this.
Yeah.
I don't see if you're running gilded, you're probably like, you know what, this is going to be a good option to put in as well. But I don't think it would replace a gilded drake, honestly.
It will replace the thing that I like is it replaces Gilded Drake if you don't have $200. Like
That's true.
it's exactly Gilded Drake. Like if you're not allowed to run proxies and you don't want to buy a Gilded Drake, Storm Drake is really at the end of the day the exact same thing. Like yeah, it would be cool for me to take a really big commander. Like let's say I take a Tali. I'd rather just hold on to it with Gilded Drake. So yeah, Gilded Drake's a little bit better, but I mean, there's not really going to be much difference between taking an Atali and just keeping it, and then having somebody sack it and have to pay 9, for the rest of the game. Like,
So could you opt to not pay it?
yeah,
That's
then
interesting.
sacrifice that creature unless you pay. So you
So
have the option. So you could just be like, I really don't want Najila over here.
just drop it for
Yeah.
two.
Uh,
That's kind of cool.
I would almost always keep it though, just
Yeah.
because then you have to make that person get rid of it if they want it back because you're gonna put it on a little throne. You're gonna be like, this is you're mine now, this is mine. And then all the opponents, they don't really care if you have Najila. You're gonna make that person get rid of Najila, which there's like a couple things that Najila does pack to get around it. There's a Brothers War, I always forget the name of the enchantment, but it's exile target permanent. An opponent has to cast 2 more, but if you exile your own permanent, like your own Najila, you put it in exile, and then at any point you can cast it for 3 again. So it's like you
Hmm.
sent it back to command zone, but you don't have to pay commander tax.
The only thing I was looking at without paying it is the energy mechanic is interesting.
Oh yeah, you could just pay
Just
4. Yeah,
yeah, to just put some in the bank
yeah,
and then just have that creature die.
yeah,
I don't know if energy going forward is going to be a big thing. It might,
yeah,
but like in future sets, if they're going to print more energy, and if they do, maybe that's relevant.
yeah. And this is something I always remember whenever I see certain cards. So we have a friend that he ran a Hydra deck for a long time, and that deck pretty much always fell behind. And the thing that we said that kind of opened his mind was I can put any card in the game I want in my deck. You literally go, okay, there's several thousand cards, but there's only a pool of 200 Hydra cards. I got to pick out of these 200 cards good cards. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the same with energy. I think energy there's only 75 cards, and like while they might be good, you are limiting your deck from building every card in existence that's legal in the commander format, which is thousands and thousands. And you go, I'm only going to pick from this pool of 100 or so.
Well, I mean, there could be. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it might be relevant with a more energy efficient deck.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes those cards are designed to be like, if you go all in on energy, the cards you get are great and they're way better than any card we would ever print, and it's worth it. But you are also going,
All in.
yeah, every time that a card set is picked, you don't get to look at those cards and go, "Oh, this would be good in my deck." You'd be like, "Oh, it's not an energy card." Nah,
I don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like,
But the reason this one is here
yeah,
is because even if you don't care about the energy, this is still good.
yeah. I'm just really glad that there's a somewhat budget option of Gilded Drake. Like that was a very unique mechanic that didn't exist unless somebody had $200 to spend on a creature. And now we have a very similar card that's probably going to be $16. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just like, Gilded Drake is never attainable for me. I will never get it. I will miss that
Yeah.
card every time there's a tournament that doesn't allow proxies. And it sucks that the power of my deck is limited because I don't have 200 extra dollars to just blow in a card. But now I have an option. And I really like that we're keeping the game somewhat attainable.
And somewhat new too,
Yeah.
because this not exactly.
And you could run both. Like, let's say you
Yeah.
don't care and you're just like, I'll spend $200 and I'll spend $16. I want two of these effects. Now you get two of these effects.
Again, like I was saying, I don't think that somebody that has gilded is going to replace this for gilded,
Yeah.
but I do think that this could be an additional gilded
Hmm.
in a deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, this guy. Basking Brood Scale. One colorless, one green, creature Eldrazi lizard. Devoid. It has no color. Pay one and a green, adapt. So if this creature has no 1/1 counters on it, put a 1/1 counter on it. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put onto Basking Broodlord, or Brood Scale, I'm sorry, you may create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice add a colorless mana. So I know that that was word soup. However, this is silly for a common.
Yeah, it goes infinite with so many things.
This
Like,
is this is infinite on multiple scales of just win the game. I'm gonna put this out. Now I have concordant, all of this. We're done.
yeah.
And it's a common.
Yeah, the thing too that just for listeners is sacrifice this creature colon add colorless. So it's not a tap. It's a the moment the creature comes out, I don't even care if it has haste. And every time you put a 1/1 counter on it, get it. So there's just so many things that like you could loop for infinite death triggers. Like I personally don't know of any. I saw a lot of people talking about it and they were like, what about this card? It goes infinite with this card. What about this card? What about this card? Like,
I mean, it would go with something as simple as a blood artist.
yeah,
I mean, and wouldn't it be crazy if they made a 5 color colorless deck
yeah,
that's possibly in this
yeah,
set?
yeah. I mean, this also can go into Corvold because if you have a way to put counters on this thing, and I know that there's a lot of ways that just for a colorless you can just go add a counter, get a good Eldrazi, sacrifice it for a colorless, get a counter, blah blah. And every time it dies, you either trigger Blood Artist, you trigger Pitless Plunderer to get a treasure, like
For a common.
yeah. And the art's really cool. It's a lizard with tentacles that's just slurping down on a giant fly. So like I like it. Yeah.
And if y'all want in the comments, show me the cards that are gonna go infinite with this because there's quite a few.
Yeah. I mean, it was a card that there's very few times that in our local Discord, like playgroup Discord, I put a card in and not only do the casual players get excited about it, the CDH players do. And this is one of those few cards that we put it in and everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is going to enable like my casual deck. Like I've been waiting for a card like this. It's hyper specific and it does exactly what I need." And then the CDH players were like, "This just slots right into Corvold. This just slots right into this." Like
Yeah, I yep,
yeah.
green infinite.
Like when you design a card like that every single player can get excited about, and I'm sure somebody in modern's excited about it too. Like I speak at it from a commander perspective because number one, that's what our podcast is about, and then number two, like that's what I know. But to print a card, everybody get excited about it, and then go, yeah, this is a common. Like is really cool. Like in my opinion, and then put a iguana on it with tentacles and have it eating a giant fly. Like just bonus points all around. Like
I if the artist is at the next con we go to,
oh
I'm
yeah
getting in mine signed for sure.
yeah, KO Ontario. You'll see us.
Kudos.
Yeah, kudos. Like
Aladrami?
yeah, Eladrami.
Eladrami. I'm a man.
I'm glad you picked this one because I would have to read this.
Corvectal?
Yeah, Eladrami Corvictol. I think that's how you say it.
It is one colorless, two green, legendary elf warrior creature. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library, pay one green, and then tap two untapped creatures you control. Reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If if you reveal a creature card this way, put it onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn. Word soup.
Yeah,
However,
3-3.
silly.
Just from a lore perspective, we've never had Eladrami printed, and I run Eladrami's call in most of my decks because I like Selesnya. So I'm personally hyped that for the first time we've seen Eladrami in many, many cards, and we've seen his flavor text in many, many things. This is the first time you can actually play with Eladrami, which is just cool from a lore perspective.
And again, I'm sorry I butchered the name. Crazy stuff. However, what I was looking at for this one is multiple things. Like this you show a card and you can just play it. You look at the top card of your library at any time. I honestly was kind of thinking of Atali a little bit,
Mm,
but
Nah.
I don't think that it's gonna be as beastie in there.
So let me ask you a question. What deck poops out a lot of creatures and cares about warriors? Najila.
Yep.
Like, my God. The only reason I would say that I personally wouldn't run this in Atali is basically a mono red deck that just can splash in some green. I'm not going to have the two green for this.
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit slow, and also at the same time, I don't care about my creature spells. That like, yeah, it would be cool to tutor a dockside to top with Worldly Tutor and then cast it, but then this guy would need to have haste for me to do it. So it's just way too much setup. However, Najila really cares about creatures. Specifically, oh man, I just blanked on it. The bird, the Bant bird that wins the game with Najila.
Oh, Drevi.
Yeah, Derevi. She cares a lot about Derevi. She has black to top tutors. She has worldly tutor. So you can set up an Eldrami, get a lot of warriors. Eldrami is a warrior itself, and then all of a sudden you could just go green tap, tap two untap creatures. He's on the field now. Like, I win.
So also, hear me out. I know I've mentioned this before, but there's another Simic that just poops out creatures as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's say
Can it?
you have one of those pieces in your hand,
Mm,
you drop him, or let's say that's your flip,
yeah.
put it out. Well, you can't pay
Pass.
one,
Yeah, yeah,
but once you're able to, you could put out your whole breaker or whatever might be in your hand
yeah.
for tapping two.
I mean, also too, like, I think he's good enough. I personally don't really see myself ever running mono green, but he's good enough to where I think you could run a green stompy. We already seen like a lot of elf mono green commanders in CEDH elf ball, and he is an elf and he's mono green and he's really good. I also think just to like speaking about Kinnan, if we're going to a stacks Kinnan meta, this guy is slow, but also if you've slowed the game down and you can pay green and then tap him, Kinnan, and a mana dork and then drop out a hull breaker. Like, that's pretty insane. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we are moving to more of a Staxy meta, and cards like this that just go, yeah, it's slow, but my god, the value is really good.
I mean, for one green and tapping two creatures, so you keep your mana up.
Mhm.
You drop a tide spout or a hull
Yeah.
breaker.
Yeah, the thing about this too is two top tutors are very common in CDH. So the
That's
fact
true.
that you could two top counter like tutor the biggest thing in your deck and then go, okay, well, I have 2 green and 3 creatures right now. I'm gonna go get Elish Norn. you know,
Yeah.
it's I like it.
I think it has a lot of utility there,
Yeah.
and I don't think I would be uber mad if it was in my Kennen flop too.
Yeah. I mean I also think I might try it out in Elvery just because I have so many creatures all the time. And if I worldly tutor, something to top and it's worth me spending. I mean, for worldly tutors green, this is green, and then I tap 3 creatures, I get a free Elish Norn and I wipe the field. Or
I like it.
yeah, I think it's really good.
Frantic
Fanatic.
fanatics of Roans,
Fanatic of Ronos is how I see
Ronas.
it. Yeah.
One colorless, one green creature, snake druid. It is a 1/4 tap, add a mana.
At a green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one green mana. Uh, is it ferociousness?
Yeah. Ferocious.
Ferocious. Tap, add 4 green. Activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Again, it's green.
Yeah.
Uh,
Eternal.
internalize.
Eternalize.
Pay 2 colorless, 2 green. Exile this card from a graveyard. Create a token that is a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 zombie snake druid with no mana cost. Eternalize only as a sorcery.
Yeah.
So I liked it mainly because it was a mana dork, and then it has potential to do 4.
Yeah. So the problem with green mana dorks right now is, for the most part, they have 1 toughness. I would. It is a little slow, 1 colorless and a green, but it's a 1/4, so it's no longer Bowmaster's fodder. I would pay that extra 1 to have a 1/4 and just know that I have it. It does. It's kind of, if it tapped for 2 green, it would be fantastic. But the thing that's crazy is ferocious tap add 4 green. And you might ask yourself, well, if I'm not running a big commander, maybe that's not good. Well, read the Eternalize. You exile the card from the graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie snake druid.
Then it taps for
Yeah.
4.
So it doesn't say add 4 green, activate only if you control another creature with 4 power or greater. It turns itself on when it's in the graveyard. So I mean, I could see this being in a mill deck. I can see it being in a big stompy deck. I can see it being in a deck with a big commander. I don't really think I would run it in Atali because I'm really trying to just get Atali out. So by the time I get Atali out, I don't really care for 4 green. But I mean, I think this is going to be a very easy thing to put in. Like, I think this is great with Corvold. Corvold has a lot of ferocious spells that it puts in because your goal is to get Corvold out, and then once Corvold is out, draw a lot of cards, and then do stuff with those cards. And if I can do stuff with those cards and then add 4 green for 2, that's awesome.
Yeah. Again, I don't think this one was breaking the bank anywhere. I just thought it was a decent mana dork with a big butt.
Yeah. And this is the design that I like to see, is plays around something you're worried about in the meta. Very specific to what decks it'll go into, turns itself on as far as like its better effect. Like, it's all encompassing in itself. Slow, but all encompassing in itself. And also it's not so broken that every green deck's like, I'm gonna run this. Like, it's really good in the decks it's really good in. Probably won't get put into decks that it's not really good in.
I mean, kind of a note too. It's a druid,
Yeah.
which is isn't that what is Kennen a druid too?
Yeah, a lot of mana dorks are gonna be druids. I think Kennen is a druid. Yeah, yeah.
Again, will it hit a Kennen spot? I don't know. I do think that it's an interesting mana dork for what it does, and then to pay 4 and have it come back.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like
Also of note, it's a cobra, and cobras are cool. Nadu,
it.
Winged Wisdom. One colorless, green blue. 3/4 legendary creature bird wizard. Line. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. You go ahead and just talk about this, and then
At face value,
yeah,
this this sounds interesting. When you deep dive this is silly.
yeah,
Like straight up silly. Um, I think we have talked about this card previously, between me and him. However, the only thing that I see this limited by is its colors. And God, God help us if this had black in it or something like that, or red.
yeah.
Red would be insane.
So we made a point to, until we were able to get together and do this podcast, not look at cards. And this card was shoved in my face so much that I could not avoid it, and we could not avoid talking about it before the podcast. Um, the thing that's crazy about it is it's creatures you control. So it includes Nadu, and it's not that this ability triggers only twice each turn like a world effect, it's per creature. So if you have 3 creatures, this can trigger 6 times. And the way that you can target a creature with a spell or ability is lightning greaves or any 0 equip, which I know for sure there are 2. So this is when lightning greaves comes out, draw 6 cards, and if they're land cards, put them onto the battlefield untapped. And that's only if you have 3 creatures. Like,
Again, if there was only a Simic commander that is super broke,
mhm,
that puts out creatures
yeah,
that would love card draw.
yeah, and mana ramp. Like,
Yeah, oh, the mana ramps even better than the draw
yeah.
sometimes.
The thing that's crazy, and like what I've seen a lot of people saying that they're going to turn this into a CDH commander. I think it has potential, but I think this is flavor of the week potential. I don't see it itself being a crazy commander because I don't see that it can close the game by drawing and putting lands out in green blue fast. Like, can it close the game? Yes. However, is this a great card that's super busted in Kennen? Is this a great card that's super busted in any combo that is green blue? Like, yeah, maybe you don't really care to tech it in and then tech Lightning Greaves in, but just that and Lightning Greaves, it's just crazy. Like, it's really good. I'm going to be spicy and say that it won't be a CDH commander that we see long term. I think people will definitely get excited, run it, and then not win, and then go, and then put it into Kinnan. Yeah.
I think this is going to be one of Kennan's best friends.
Yeah. Like, I don't look at this and go, I would rather run this over Kennan, and really that's the question in those colors in Simic. But I mean, it's a really good card that can slot into the 99 in anything that has green and blue. Um,
The um the zero drop um the zero drop uh equipment that gives mana of any color, does it cost one
Oh
to
yeah, Paradise Mantle. Yeah, it costs
Paradise
one.
Mantle?
Yeah, yeah.
I'd have to look to see if Springleaf targets, like tap target creature, because if that happens, then Springleaf becomes
Yeah.
tap target creature
Add
for a
a
mana,
add a mana, put a
draw a card.
yeah. Yeah, I mean I think it has a lot of potential. I just I see it being a card that someone's like, it has a lot of potential, and they summon it, and then they're like, I'm gonna do all these things, I'm gonna put all these lands down, I'm gonna draw all these cards. And then they're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna move to end step and I'm gonna craft my hand, and then someone else is just like, cool. I'm gonna underworld breach on turn 2. Oh, all you did was put out Nadu and really set yourself up. Cool. Like,
Yeah, I think part of the 99, this has got some crazy tech.
Yeah, yeah,
But and then it's flying. It's a 3/4 flyer.
yeah. For 3.
Yeah, just silly.
Like it's better than its cost in its power and toughness, which is silly. Yeah. All right.
Psychic Frog. Whenever Psychic Frog deals damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card. Discard a card, put a 1/1 counter on Psychic Frog. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Psychic Frog gains flying until the end of turn. It is 1 blue, 1 black, and it's a 1/2 creature.
Yeah.
I am up in the air about it being
See, because when you exile 3 cards, you put flying.
yeah, but
That
I
was a
didn't
good one.
exile the cards.
That was a good one. I liked it.
I'm up in the air about it because it costs 2, 1 blue, 1 black to drop it. Um, it's got some crazy tech if you look at Delaney and um, Timna with it. Like you could do a lot of crazy stuff as far as drawing 4 cards or whatever have you. But it's the 2 separate color pips that kind of turn me off about it.
Hmm.
I do think the card is decent.
Yeah. Well, number 1, I like it because it's a frog. Number 2, I like it because it's a play on Psychotog. Number 3, I just like the art. The full art's really cool too. I've seen some people say that's going to be a new Blue Farm staple, and it's like, yeah, whenever it deals combat damage, you get to draw a card, and then you get to draw another one off Timna. What I think is the most relevant is the discard a card, put a
Uh,
1/1 counter on Psychic Frog. The other thing is, like, let's say you swing with a 1/2 and nobody blocks, and you've already done on your last end step necropotence, or not necropotence, adnos, and you have 20 cards in hand.
just kill somebody.
You just go, okay, you're not going to block. I kind of whiffed on my I kind of whiffed on this, so like I'll just kill you, like,
I'm gonna drop 20 cards.
yeah.
Cool.
Like you can't swing with it and then have somebody block, and then you go, well, I'm actually just going to exile 3 cards from my graveyard, and now he has flying. Like that doesn't work.
No, but you could easily be like, I'm gonna discard 4 cards real quick,
Yeah.
and now I just overrun your card you blocked with.
Well, and also you could just go, okay, main phase, drop, 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 put a 1/1 counter on Psychic Frog. I dropped 4 cards. Well, let's just say I dropped 3 cards. It's a 4/5 now. Those 3 cards I just dropped, I'm going to exile them from a graveyard. It has flying till end of turn. Now I have a 5/6 that whenever it hits, you take 5 damage. It's flying, and I'm going to draw those cards. And then also, let's say Psychic Frog is the only thing that's out on the field. Someone swings with Tivit. On block or declare, exile the cards, give it flying, block with it, and then, well, give it flying, give it 1/1 counters, block with it, and then kill Tivit. Like,
Would I guess the discard a card is an activated ability, right?
yeah. Anything with a colon is an activated ability, but it's at instant speed. So on attackers declared, you could do all of that in response to attackers declared. And then now that creature has those abilities and then block with it.
Again, the only thing that really kind of brings this back to earth to me is the 2-color pip.
Mm-hmm.
But what a crazy little card!
Yeah.
Like,
If it was blue green, I would be much more excited about it just because I'm working on a pet project frog deck that I think has potential. I think it has a lot of potential after Modern Horizons, which I might just do a video on the YouTube channel about it just for some side content. But yeah, I'm excited. I like frogs. I think they're cool.
it's a decent art too.
Yeah. The full art is really cool too. I just like that it's a callback to Psychotalk, which is a old card, and they were like, "What if we made Psychic Tog a psychic frog?"
That's funny.
And that is everything that we thought was cool in Modern Horizons 3. Not everything. The whole set is really cool, but everything that we thought was worth talking about in a podcast that wouldn't be over 3 or 5 hours. We also are going to do the same podcast next week for the commander cards. Every time a set comes out, normally we do bi-weekly on Monday, but whenever a set comes out, we are going to do a super episode that we're not going to limit to the 1-ish hour that we've been trying to do, and it will come off schedule. But next week we'll be back on schedule with just a review of the commander cards.
I mean, realistically, we enjoy doing these things,
Yeah.
and if y'all enjoy it too, then awesome.
And also show us, like, subscribe,
For sure.
leave reviews, comments. Like, it's really cool to see all the people that have been listening. And then if we could hear from you guys and read your comments on the podcast, even better.
Yep. And shout out to all of y'all around the world, especially on the other side. That's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. See you later. Bye.
See ya.